Nigerians revolt at the central bank after it declared old currency is no longer valid. So there's this group of people who are really attached to their old notes, but the old note lovers weren't having it and they sued the central bank. The case went to the Supreme Court. Crazy part about this is that the central bank now has a CBDC backed by the law and the full sovereignty of Nigeria. It is a new form of cash and Nigerians need a special digital wallet to access, hold, and use it. Government total control, in other words. I mean, I get that digital currencies are all the rage these days, but can we really trust a currency that's controlled by a central authority? Would Nigerians be better off with Bitcoin instead?
Shalom. I want to start by giving all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rakak Wadash. Double honor to the elder apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and mercy to the hopeful elect. I'm the brother Yawanathan, back with another quick lesson. Lord willing, is edifying. And just like that, it's that easy for really any government of the world to make it a law for CBDC. All right, for any central bank in any country, in any part of the world, it's going to be that easy for them to implement the mark of the beast, all right, which is the RFID microchip implant, which is going to be the device that is the mediator between you and the central bank of whatever country in the world you live in to access CBDCs, all right, in your digital wallet. It's going to be that easy, that simple, as just them making it a law. They went to the Supreme Court, and now CBDC is a law in Nigeria. And you can see them Israelites over there, they're not happy with that, because so-called Nigerians are Israelites according to the Bible, primarily of the tribe of Judah. All right. So they're not having it, which shows you the clear difference between an Edomite, which is a so-called white man, and an Israelite, which is a so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. Because in countries like Sweden and other European nations, they're not protesting like this against digital economy. They're going right along with it because for the most part, they're Edomites, Esau, the so-called white man. But you see in a predominantly Israelite country like Nigeria, well, you're not getting the same results. And the so-called white man is expecting this. Something tells me that, they know that they have, I forgot how to call it, but it's basically like a plan B. If they get any resistance like this or any type of legal, if they get into any type of legal situations, they already got that part covered, through the Supreme Court. Because remember, Joe Biden, all right, at one of the briefings, the Supreme Court briefings, I can't remember what year and how long ago was it. All right, but you brothers probably remember this, and Apostle Tahar brought this out. He told Chief Justice Joe Roberts, if I'm not mistaken, that's his name, Joe Roberts, something like that. He told him that in the next 10 years, he was going to have to rule on if human beings could, is it legal to obligate human beings to get microchips? You see, and Joe Biden happens to be the same one that also signed Executive Order or House Resolution 14067, all right, which is the government centralizing of digital assets, which your CBDC, central bank digital currency, falls under that law, under that, authority, so to speak, of the government, the Federal Reserve. That's what the Central Bank of America is called. So this thing is definitely moving, man. And this devil is getting ready to implement his agenda. So this was an article from CoinDesk that I ran into. And then when I took it over to YouTube to look more into the protesting, see if there's any videos on it, I came across that clip that I play right here. Riots in Nigeria as old currency not valid. So now it's law. And basically, Nigerians' rejection of their CBDC is a cautionary tale for other countries, right? Because that's prophecy. This is Job 20 and 22. In the fullness of his sufficiency, he shall be in straits. Salaki, excuse me. The fullness of his sufficiency is speaking about the sufficiency of the so-called white man. All right, which is not just all so-called white people in general, but the elites. The ones who basically operate the business of central banks, which begin with the Rothschild family. All right, Edomites, in the fullness of their sufficiency, meaning what? In the fullness of whatever they want to accomplish, their agenda, their enterprise. I just want to read that in the NLT, see what it says. Excuse me, you know, as soon as I go to start doing me a video, this morning I woke up fine. It's been happening to me, man. You know, the demons, I guess, Satan, you know, whatever it is. But it's like as soon as I'm getting in the spirit to do a video, I start feeling sick in the flesh. And usually as soon as I'm done with the video, it just goes away, man. It's so weird. But anyways, in the NLT, it says, in the midst of plenty, they will run into trouble and be overcome by misery. It's not really the best translation, but let's see if there's another one. Yeah, I don't got anything else on the Blue Letter app. Let's read it again. In the fullness of his sufficiency, he shall be in straits, and the straits represents difficulty. All right, when you deal with the word in the Blue Letter, let's see what it says. 22 in the Hebrew. Let's see what it says for fullness. To be full, to satisfy, you know, to fulfill, accomplish, complete. See, that's the context we want to deal with, to be accomplished. So basically before he can accomplish it, because it says in the fullness, meaning during him accomplishing it, there's going to be straits for him. The word straits, it says to bind, be distressed, be in distress, is yasar, if I'm not mistaken, or yatazar. That's what it should say, yatazar in the Hebrew. To bind, be distressed, be in distress, to be cramped, and be narrow, be scant. You see, to cause distress, to suffer distress. So, meaning while they're trying to fulfill this agenda, they're going to be dealing with situations like this. Like it says, a cautionary tale for other countries. So they're forecasting that Nigerians are not the only ones who are going to resist this CBDC takeover. You know, it says a cautionary tale for other countries. So, you know, there is going to be more rioting and more protesting and, you know, resisting against this agenda. And that's what the prophecy here says. In the fullness of his sufficiency, while he's, you know, completing his agenda, while he's wrapping it up, he shall be in straits. And what are the straits? It tells you right here in the next part, every hand of the wicked shall come upon them. We know the Hebrew word for hand is power. So what does it mean? Let's get that word wicked, every hand of the wicked. Well, we know the so-called white man is the wicked. So is it talking about his own people coming against him? That's part of it. All right, because it does tell you that. It does tell you in the scriptures that the Egyptians are going to be set against the Egyptians, and Satan divided against himself cannot stand. So we know that there's going to be a rebellion of Edomites against the elites of Edom agenda. All right, we know that especially once they implement that RFID chip, you're going to have some Edomites that are not down for that. Some of them will be, but some of them won't be. And you're going to have some Jakes that some of them will be, some of them won't be. So that's going to be the straits that the so-called white man is going to have to deal with. And we know he's going to deal cruel. All right, he's going to deal with great wrath because you know that he has only but a short time to fulfill his agenda. Revelation 12 and 12. The word for wicked in the Hebrew for that particular verse is imol. See, so it's not the same word wicked that you read about in Malachi 1 and 4. All right, the border of wickedness, that's Rashai in the Hebrew. And Rashai in Hebrew, wicked, translated wicked, also means a criminal or guilty one. So it ain't talking about Edomites per se in this verse. You could lump them in there because they are laborers, but it's really talking about Jake. See, the word is laborer, sufferer, wretched one, toiling. See? So you have people that are laboring in this society, and primarily they're Israelites, all right? And they're not reaping no benefits of their own labor. The scriptures tell you that. That's part of the curse, that we would do the work, but we're not going to reap the benefits of doing the work, meaning somebody else is going to reap it. Let's say you plant this vineyard and you dressing it and you taking care of it and maintenance in it, but then the so-called white man comes and collects the fruit of your labor and gives you the scraps, gives you the crumbs. That's what a imol basically is. It's a laborer, a wretched one. And who is that in this world? That's our people, man. The Israelites. So Israelites are going to openly rebel against this man's system when he starts really trying to clamp down and get that last little bit of power, because he already got the power. I mean, we understand the so-called white man is just he has a God complex. You know, he's thirsty for power. He says he can never be satisfied. He's like death and hell. You see? So, but the Most High is not going to allow him to fill his belly. It says when he is about to fill his belly, so that means he hadn't done it yet. He's chewing, he's eating, he's in the process of filling his belly. He's in the process of completing his new world order, but the Most High shall cast the fury of his wrath upon him and shall rain it upon him while he is eating. Which goes back to what Elder Apostle Tahar always says, that when this agenda is, when they finally do make it mandatory to take the mark, Revelation 13 and 16 through 18, when they actually make that move, it's not going to be much longer until Yahweh Shem Yahushai returns, until Yahweh Shai returns and puts an end to this part of the movie right here. Because this is nothing but a movie. This is the Most High's production. All right, he created Esau and Jacob. The angel Uriel told Ezra, he expounded to him, Esau is the end of the world, Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. So we're waiting for this man's world to end, so to speak, his eon, his age. All right, in the Greek, we're waiting for it to end so that Yahweh Shai could establish his throne of righteousness. Because it said, shall the throne of iniquity have fellowship with thee. You can't have two kings sitting on one throne. You can't have two kings sharing the same crown. There could only be one ruler. And right now the ruler is rulers of darkness of this world, which is the elites, the so-called white men, particularly the tribe of Amalek, the central bankers. They rule the world through depth, you know, through wickedness, through corruption and lies, and deceit. You see, through violence. But the kingdom to come is going to be a kingdom of righteousness. So we understand these things because it's in the prophecy. So we know that there's a certain sequence of how these things are going to play out. It's not just going to happen overnight. All right. And certain things has to happen first before other things can happen. So that's a part of measuring the time. All right. Because if you have a ruler or a reed or a rod, you know that, you know, it's an order to it. You can't just jump from 1 to 10. You know, you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's a sequence to it. And the Most High said he's not going to stir it or make it shorter or prolong it any longer than it has to be, so to speak, any longer than he's intended it to be. So everything is happening on the Lord Yahweh Shem Yahushai's time. And we're just like weathermen. You know, we're spiritual forecasters of these prophecies by watching what's happening in the world and reporting on it through the lens or the perspective of prophecy. Because you got plenty of people on YouTube who are making very good videos and breaking all of these things down, all these events, the bank collapsings and the bank runs, and they could go into the statistics and the numbers, and we could do that too. But our niche is prophecy, man. The testimony of Yahweh Shai is a spirit of prophecy, and that's what we have. All right, so we're reading prophecies right now. The Most High shall cast the fury of his wrath upon him. This is a future prophecy. Shall do it. He hasn't done this yet. And shall rain it upon him while he is eating. So he's never going to get to fulfill his agenda. All right. So that's good, man. I commend them brothers out there that's, you know, bucking up against it, man, because even though Romans 13, there's a certain limit to it, but there does have to come a day where we all gonna have to resist the devil, because he's gonna come with that chip. All right, so there's gonna come a point where you're gonna have to go against him, and he's gonna consider that treason. He's gonna consider that sedition, insurrection. Which insurrection more so is a violent uprising. So that's what they're doing over there. They've putting stuff on fire. They openly rebelling against the government because it's corrupt, man. So it says he shall flee from the iron weapon, and the bow of steel shall strike him through. So the Most High, how is he going to end this man's new world order? Is going to be by nuclear war. It's going to be a third world war. And that's how we know that the chip first has to be made mandatory, because the ones who are going to die in that second death, it tells you in Revelation 14, they had the mark. They worshiped the beast in his image. They had the mark, and that's why they destroyed. So that mark has to be first mandatory. That hour of temptation has to come for all those who are going to be destroyed during World War III. So that's how you know it's going to happen simultaneously. The mark, making it mandatory, Supreme Court, whatever, however they do it, making it a law. And then all our war, man, is going to break out in the form of ICBMs getting shot from one end of the earth to the other. It says, it is drawn and cometh out of the body. Yeah, the glittering sword cometh out of his gall. Terrors are upon him. All right, so that's the point, man. He's never going to get to fulfill what he wants to fulfill, because the Most High is going to interrupt it by that third world war, which the Heavenly Father calls it the second death. The first death is when he brought the flood during the ancient world, during the time of Noah. But now we're going to have a flood of missiles. We're going to have a lake of fire. It's not going to be water this time. It's going to be done through fire, through heat. Fervent heat, as the scriptures call it. It said all the elements shall melt with fervent heat. So that's the fear behind this thing, man. That's why you got to be paying attention to this. And, you Israelites that know that the mark of the beast is the RFID chip, you should be speaking about it as much as you can, because we're literally living in the days that they're about to bring it to pass, and we're prophesying it as each step of the way goes. We've been prophesying it through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shem Yahushai. All right, so there is Israelites out there listening, and hey, man, if it's anyone who could see a scam coming, a so-called Nigerian will see it coming a mile away. You know what I'm saying? So if they know that something is off about it, that should be a cautionary tale for everybody else. Everybody should be having their eyes on Nigeria right now, saying, how come they don't accept the CBDC? How come they're not going for that agenda? Everybody should be in that spirit, but sadly and unfortunately, which is all prophecy, it's not unfortunate, it has to happen this way, but a lot of people are not going to care. A lot of people are going to go right along with it, especially in the face of fear. All right, when they bring more crises and more pandemics and stuff like that, which that they're going to do, talking about the elites. Hey, man, that's just it, I was going to read this article, but I'll just leave it in the description box. You could check it out. But for the most part, they're not going for it. And they want paper cash back, but that's pretty much done. They're not going to have paper cash and CBDC. And if they do, that's not going to last long anyways, because ultimately, no man is going to be able to buy or sell save he that had the mark. And that mark is the RFID chip. So eventually, you can't use cash. There's no purpose of an RFID chip if cash is still around. We know that they're going to do away with cash completely, 100%. All right, even if they're telling you they're not, don't believe him. This man's the devil, obviously. That's his agenda, man. He's been exposed. So now anybody who's heard this, you have no cloak for your sin, and you're not supposed to receive the mark, the RFID chip. You're not supposed to receive it. If you do, Yahweh Shem Yahushai will destroy you. All right, no exceptions, no mercy. All right, the whole complete wrath of Yahweh Shem Yahushai without mixture is going to be poured upon you for receiving this mark. All right, for going along with this agenda. So you have to fight it with everything that you got, with all, your mind, body, and soul. Resist the RFID chip, resist this CBDC agenda, because that's what Yahweh Shem Yahushai wants you to do. That proves your faith to him. So with that, I'm going to say shalom, and all praises to Yahweh Shem Yahushai. I hope and pray you were edified. Shalom.